So, you would like to open your own e-commerce store in 2023 or whenever year you're watching this, and you're probably seeing a lot of YouTube videos cheering you on, telling you how you can get rich quick, about, if you just follow this simple plan that you have to pay these people to see, that you'll be able to make bank in e-commerce online. And I'm here to tell you for free why that is a terrible fucking idea. I'm just going to jump right into it. So, here's the deal. What e-commerce professionals around the world know that you probably don't know if you're not already in the game is that the goalposts have shifted significantly. This is partially by design. It's also partially based on consumer preferences. So there's a little bit of complexity here that I'm going to basically avoid. So the premise I'd like to lay before you is thus, and that's that the common narrative in a lot of e-commerce software as a service that is geared towards, individuals, influencers, really small businesses, or people who have dreams of small business ownership, which is a lot of people. They're the same group of people that are targeted by MLMs and stuff like that. The premise that I want to lay before you is that currently e-commerce is basically marketed like it's the new MLM. There was a pocket of time in the late '80s, early 2010s, where the thing that they are promoting, an easy path to e-commerce business ownership, was very heavily bound to the technical burdens of launching a website, and they commoditized that. They democratized it. They made it easier for normal people to launch e-commerce websites. And that only lasted a very short period of time before it became a competitive advantage, particularly when Google shifted to mobile-first indexing for their search ranking, which is a huge part of this. And it basically launched an explosion in the need to build zippy, super fast websites that these SaaS companies are not commoditizing for you. They are creating those solutions for companies that have way more money than small businesses typically do. So keep watching and I'll explain a little bit more. Here's the thing. I've been trying to think of ways to really describe what's going on, but in a nutshell, the simplest way to describe what's happening right now relative to what happened in 2013 and the main drivers for it is thus, okay? All those solutions that have made it easy to launch a website, they're all bound to templates that are optimized for desktop search experiences, which was great until Google changed priority in 2018 towards mobile-first indexing, and the whole web essentially sprinted towards mobile-first development for e-commerce websites and experiences adjacent to that. And those templated themes in these commoditized SaaS solutions, they don't do that part. They didn't commoditize the mobile-first technology. So that left a technological gap that is now being fully leveraged by companies that have a hell of a lot more money to throw at that pursuit than small businesses that are buying, entry into these platforms. So if these particular platforms don't have an appetite to commoditize that mobile first technology, it deflates their value proposition over time, because as that gap persists, there's another gap that follows behind it where those companies that have more money are gaining leads and they know it. They're getting ahead of the small businesses and squashing that competition before it ever gets off the ground, because those small businesses, even if those businesses are all run by people who have excellent front-end development chops, they would not be able to do that work by themselves and also run a full business and also source product and do all the other things that are required in e-commerce. So it's a situation where you are forced, because of the way the technology currently exists, for headlessness, to outsource parts of that, if not all of it, which is not a reality. It's not feasible for a lot of very small businesses. Hyper small businesses are typically single person operations, maybe a wife and a husband, or a father and a son, or something like that, brother, sister, something like that. They're very small operations, and maybe they don't have the bandwidth or the inclination to want to scale up to the point. I mean, I know that is, akin to blasphemy in business to say that you don't want to scale up, but there are problems that come with scaling, and not all companies can scale like that. Infinite growth for all companies is an impossibility, right? Infinite growth for any company is an impossibility. It's one of the beautiful things about the way our system and our economy is engineered. it used to be really expensive to develop e-commerce websites. It was a really technical task that also involved a lot of creativity, and companies were constantly trying to push the envelope. I can assure you that didn't stop. that has gone full steam ahead. It has continued onward, upward, to infinity and beyond. But, you know, the tech that is available to small businesses has not evolved at the same pace. What happened in the early days looked like it got neutralized by players like Shopify, who entered the fray in like the aughties, really hit their renaissance in the 2010s, and they seemed like they were commoditizing e-commerce, as in they were making e-commerce more democratized. They were opening it up to more people to be able to access the technology, even if they weren't, strictly speaking, technologists themselves, right? Like you didn't need to know how to be a full stack or a front end developer in order to launch a website, which was great, right? Because all along, there was this kind of secret sauce that most people in e-commerce knew, that you needed to basically be a little software company to run your website, and you also needed to have a really robust in-house marketing apparatus to be able to get reach to pull people into that website, right? And hopefully if the people developing that website were really good, they would develop a really, really cool website, and then people would keep coming back for more. This is a traditional marketing funnel that has been executed online millions of times, probably, since the dawn of the World Wide Web. So it's nothing new, what I just described. And the thing is, it's like, what's old is new again, you know? It's like everything makes a comeback. So, like I was alluding to earlier, there was this situation in the, you know, late aughties, early 2010s, where many players like Wix, Squarespace, Shopify, BigCommerce, they got into the fray, and their value proposition to the bottom end of the small, mid-sized business market, so like real small mom and pop businesses, was essentially like, hey, you don't need to know how to code a website. You can just buy one of our templated themes, launch real quick. You've probably heard the ads, because they still run ads claiming that this narrative is true. That all you have to do is sign up for their service, launch a website real quick, and boom, you got a business. Because you're still ignoring the other part of that e-commerce business, the business part. And not to put too fine a point on it, the business part looks like a marketing company. Right? So it goes back to that other component that I mentioned earlier, that in the old days, you needed to have basically a little software company. Well, you can outsource that to a software as a service company now. I just rattled off a whole bunch of them. So that's something you can easily offload. We'll come back to that in a moment. But then you still have this other component that never went away, which is that you need in-house marketing, the business part of your business, the engine that makes it go vroom. You need that part to work. That is not the website. It's the marketing that makes that happen. And if you don't have a concrete go-to-market marketing strategy, if you don't know what your differentiators are, if you don't even know what product you're going to sell or what service you're going to provide, and then how you're going to unlock those opportunities with the website and tie it all together somehow. And the thing is, that problem never fully went away. In fact, it only got more expensive and more complicated. In fact, I would argue it has never been more expensive or more complicated to try to acquire customers in e-commerce than it is right now. Customer acquisition costs are at all-time highs. I can't provide data because I'd have to charge you for it. But let's just say that they're at all-time highs right now. And yet the narrative has not changed. Buy our product, our software as a service product, where you can launch a website, and boom, you've got a thriving online business. Look, Mr.Beast did it in 3 days. Or no, 3 hours. He did it in 3 hours, according to some of the ads that I've seen circulating on YouTube. No, the fuck he did not do that in 3 hours. I mean, first of all, he's only using the platform in those ads as the back end of his website operations, right? The front end is being provided by an entirely different company. So he's actually got a decoupled website. That's already injecting more complexity than those ads would indicate, right? And I could get really, really deep with that, because that's what I study for a living, is literally those kind of complex headless configurations for websites. Like, that's literally my bread and butter all day long and discussing their degrees of composability, modularity, etc. Like that's literally what I do all day in the software markets. So that can get very complicated very quickly, and frankly, it's expensive because you need to buy a lot of software to make those experiences happen like that. And that has not been commoditized. In fact, the companies that were historically known for commoditizing website technology, they are not actively trying to commoditize that kind of decoupled headless website, right? Instead, they're trying to repackage that as something they can sell as an enterprise or upper mid-market opportunity. So again, they're preserving the stratification of haves and have-nots on, online and e-commerce. Because if you're a poor, small startup company, if you're just a retailer, good luck. I mean, I know that's glib, but I don't know what else to say in that regard. There are a lot of fantasies being sold in the open market of ideas that need to be refuted because they don't match reality. If what's being sold to you is an easy opportunity to launch a great, simple, desktop optimized experience for your e-commerce operation, they're going to sell that to you. They have that technology. They can do that. But you won't get very far on mobile. And guess where most of your customers are probably going to be coming from? Yeah, right? At the beginning of the 2010s, where you could have had a direct-to-consumer product, you could have sold it yourself as an influencer. I did that. I built a business doing that. But that was an evanescent pocket of time. And it was due to timing. It wasn't due to skill or my innate likability. It was due to the stars aligning and there being the perfect amount of commoditization in the market for e-commerce technology and an open opportunity in social media because it wasn't flooded with wannabe influencers at the time, that I could literally have my cake and eat it too. I could talk directly to my audience like an influencer, use that as part of a marketing funnel, and bring people into my website to try to sell stuff to them. That is really, really, really hard to do now. It's very expensive. So what did I just say in this video? It's really difficult, complicated, and expensive to build a high-end website with really great CX, customer experience features built into it. And that is by design. As I just mentioned, the companies that could commoditize that and make it more accessible for small businesses are choosing not to because they would rather tap into higher ends of the market where that technology has basically been reserved for them specifically. And it's part of the sales pitch that this is an advantage that they have over smaller competitors, and that if they buy into a lot of this really high-end technology, they can squash that small competition before it even gets off the ground because the smaller competitors can't afford this software. So don't believe the hype and the sales pitches you're hearing from folks like Mr.Beast, who in no way, there's no fucking way he actually coded his own website, right? You can tell I'm salty about that because I keep cussing about it. That is a bullshit marketing pitch. But then you've also got on the other side of things where the marketing is more expensive. There are these two things going on in the market, channel proliferation. So there are just a lot more places where you can find people and they're being further distributed all across the web. They call it like edge marketing when you get really off into the weeds with that. And then the other problem that's going on in there is audience fragmentation, as in they're not only being distributed, but their attention spans are fragmented. They're not really paying attention to much of anything on the screen unless it's really saucy, salacious, the kind of stuff that if you made videos about it here on YouTube, it might get you fired from your job, right? Like that's the kind of stuff that people typically tune into. So everything has become tabloid, essentially, because of this issue where it's hard to find audiences, it's hard to capture their attention. And so that translates into difficulties for e-commerce as well, because, I mean, you're competing with all that nonsense too. So what have we learned today? We've learned that if you don't have a business path, don't start a business. Make sure that you do your homework and research the heck out of what you plan to do with that business before you ever commit to developing a website for it, because the website should be the cherry on top of that cake. It shouldn't be the entire cake, because then all you've got is the cherry. All right. So perhaps e-commerce isn't the route to the market that you should pursue. Perhaps you should just open up a local shop, like literally a physical store, because you'll probably make more money. It's easier to market when it's geographically restricted to your local area. And there's more opportunity to really make those connections when people are just walking by, you know. So that comes down to the old location issue. But that all, in all honesty, is probably a less expensive, less complicated issue to solve than trying to build a really great looking, inexpensive, and highly functional, fast, mobile first e-commerce website. Good luck there. You definitely can't do it with a template on Shopify. You need to decouple that head, the front end, from the website, and that basically means that you are nursing API connections and becoming a little software house, right? And you can outsource that if you have money. The thing is, a lot of these sales pitches are for folks who don't have that, who are trying to avoid another fate altogether. They're trying to avoid this. They're trying to avoid going into restaurant work or home health care aid or any other job where they're going to get paid nothing, essentially, to do dehumanizing things where they get no respect and no health care benefits and no medical leave and no safety net. So that's who a lot of these sales pitches, where it's just easy. Sign up for a SaaS product, you can launch a website, boom. You can sell a bunch of socks and make a bunch of money. No, you can't. Because you still have to market that stuff, which means you have to literally spend money to make it. And there's no guarantee that you're actually going to make money for what you're spending. Good luck. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Heather, and I'm from HairKittyKitty.com. My little moon kitty is back there. I've been in e-commerce selling via my own websites since around 2012, late 2012, early 2020. Since late 2012, early 2013. I have been through it all. If you have any questions whatsoever, please make sure you leave them in the comments. If you have any feedback, I would love to hear it. But yeah, don't fall for the hype. Don't fall for the fake e-commerce gurus who are telling you that this is easy and you can make a ton of money if you just buy their course or buy their software product. No. Because there's much more complexity than even what I just covered in here. Not just on the website end or the marketing end, because let me tell you, there's a lot of complexity in both of those spaces, but in consumer behavioral dynamics, in consumer psychology, there's a lot of complexity there. And you need to basically become an expert in all three of those things in order to make this work. And yeah, you need to be very well capitalized. You need a lot of money to do e-commerce. And as someone who is not independently wealthy, I went back to the job force and kept my websites operating because I enjoy them. And I enjoy talking to my customers. I enjoy designing toppers and wigs. But really, this is something that you have to reconcile for yourself. Have a wonderful afternoon, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye-bye.